I'm back. Somebody could say hello when you come in. Why is it not? I'm still not. I can't remember what I did last time. I assume someone said hello. What? Hey! Whatever it was I did it and I'm now back. Now I'm getting myself a to do that big. Hey! Hi Daniel. We're on now and we're all working. I need to try and zoom out of that a little bit so I can see a bit more of it. That's good. Yay! I'll continue on. I'm playing the pink Pantera. Joe. Hey Jess, yeah, I don't know what happened there. I couldn't see the chat. It just kind of went away. Just well, it didn't happen after it started the bucky, because then it would basically I just turned it off and started again. In the cheek region. And B for a change. Just play exactly the same as I always play, apart from up 2 frets. What I'm going to do is when I start doing my jams, I'm going to try and start on a funny chord, just so I'm not. That's me just been in B and everything's really weird and different. I'm normally in A or E. Hey, how's it going? Yeah. So AJP and Ruth and Morbid Angel. We'll get there. Hey, Steam Team. And it was a false start. And speaking of Steam Team, it's about time I cranked the bucky. Yeah. Hey Joe, this is a 1987 Westone Pantera. Is it 87? Matsumoku guitars, you can tell by the serial number. 86. It starts with a 6 for 86. Serial numbers on the back of the neck plate on this one. Normally Matsumoku guitars have it on the back of the headstock. Yeah, so I actually bought 2 of these. The plan being I was going to fix them both up and sell the better one. So what I did was I got the 2 of them. There was like someone had kind of mixed the 2 bodies and necks together. So this is the one with the faded neck on it, but it is the original one to the pink guitar. All I did with this one basically was give it a bit of a clean and then put it together so I could play it. The other one is the reason I've dug it out today is because I was having a wee look at the teacup. The other one, which I think was the better guitar, has also got a tone control, which this one never had, but they did originally have this, or some of them did. I don't know if you can see, but see around the edges, it's been painted with red paint, and this is me after tea cutting it. I can get it back to being original candy apple red. You can see the candy apple red suddenly disappears there, and you get that horrible sort of orangey paint. I don't know why that's happened. I'm kind of expecting to find big dents or something, but so far I've done a bit of it, and once this is up and running, I think it's going to be the nicer of the two. It's also the neck on this one's been refretted, so it's got jumbo frets. This has got skinny frets. But yeah, so Pantera, and it honestly wasn't until after I'd bought it and I'd fixed it up, I thought, I saw Pantera and I saw there's a wee logo there. It's got like a picture of a panther, and I thought, oh, Pantera, obviously it means panther, and it's pink, so it's Pink Panther. Yeah. Oh, computer, sometimes I'm just rubbish with computers, unfortunately. Computer science, turning it on and off again. Yeah, so it's like, I think that's the IT crowd. I assume you've seen that. Everyone should have seen that. Always try turn it off and turn it on again. Classical gas. I would love to be able to do classical gas. That could be a Simpsons reference? To be honest, I can sort of play a bit of it, I think. Years ago. Yeah, so maybe I can't play classical gas, but I'd like to. That was on, I don't know, was it on Shadow's 20 Golden Greats, which was the first cassette I ever had from a Walkman back in the day. It was Shadow's 20 Golden Greats on one side, my dad's tape, and the other side was Beach Boys. And that's quite an awesome tape to start with. So yes, it's been 15 years since the last time I tried to play it, and if Lisa Simpson can play it when she doesn't even play the guitar, it must be possible. On the Guinness, JP, good stuff. The Scottish Guinness would be a bit more buckyish. Hey, Morbid Angel, a cool zebra in the background. I had that. That was actually a request from last week. But I shall comply. Here is a Mockingbird, and if you look at it, it's got the R on the headstock, which could set off warning bells where you go, oh, it's either fake or it's an American one. It's neither, I don't think. I think it's a Japanese one. There is no serial number. Well, there is a serial number on the neck plate, but apparently it's just random. I think it comes in at an early 90s JE series, it's called. It was originally just two humbuckers and then these knobs. And I put a third humbucker in because I managed to pick one up on eBay, which is the same type. These are sort of DiMarzio Super Distortion looking things, but they've got BC Rich written in the centre. And I managed to find another one. I paid like $5 for it. Well, I've never seen another one since. I happened to just find it about 2 weeks after I got this guitar. I went a bit mental, and see, because it's got a massive cavity in the back for all the switches, I put all those switches in it, or I put my own versions of switches in it, and then that was when I realised you can just go too far, because I had three volume controls and a tone. The pickup switch wasn't there, and then I had three on, off, out of phase switches, one for each pickup, and then three series parallel coil split switches for each pickup, and each with their own volume control. So I mean, it was like totally infinite what it did, and a kill switch. But I put the switches on, and I didn't drill the holes quite straight. You can see part of the reason I did this paint job on it was to hide the bad switches. Maybe one day I'll put more switches in it, but it kind of works the way it is. Yeah, so that's my Mockingbird. No one's ever really given me a definitive exactly what it is. There was a model called a USA bolt-on, which I've found in a catalogue before. Or not a catalogue, in the back of a guitar magazine. It had like prices, and there was a model called a bolt-on USA one from about 1990, which was apparently a Japanese guitar shipped to America and then assembled in America. Therefore, they could claim it was an American one. So it could be that, but I don't know. They just kind of did what they wanted. Yeah. Bucky. Ruth, yeah, Bucky. Got to be the Bucky. Plays some Cemetery Gates. I don't know Cemetery Gates. Is that a band? I know Sinister Gates. That's a really bad dad joke, isn't it? Last time I drank my Bucky, I shat my pants. Me too. No, not really. That's pretty bad. That's it's maybe, I think maybe you were drinking something before that. I think you don't want to mix it up with anything. Westone, just like Varg Vilkernes guitar from Burzum. All those words sound made up, but I mean, it could be. There's one guy, Trevor Rabin, who did. I know he was in Yes, but I think I've had one of his albums. I think he does film soundtracks, and he's his sort of synthesizer-y guitar-y dude. He's got a model that came out at the same time as this, but his has got like an extra scoop on the front here that looks really cool. I don't know if it doesn't do anything. It's kind of basically this exact shape, apart from it's scooped out down here, and it kind of looks like some modern art thing. They're pretty cool and very expensive. These aren't too bad. Ultimately very, very similar guitar though. That guy from Star Trek, he perhaps has started a women lingerie company. Is this going to be a joke? Yep. Didn't know shatter panties would sell though. Yep, I love it. I love it. There's another joke using the exact same joke, which I don't really want to broadcast for obvious reasons. Yeah, I'll just change the subject. Hey, happy Sunday. Great paddle. I've got a paddle. That being, of course, Steinberger, which does actually look like a paddle. Steinberger bass that I picked up. Actually, talked to the guy I got it off just a couple of weeks ago. Loner of a Lonely Heart, something to do with John and Vangelis, I think. He could have, yes. It's just one of those names I know. I'm pretty sure he definitely did. He could, maybe it's a John and Vangelis thing, which is making me think he's somewhere synthesizer-y. I'm sure he did the soundtrack to a film that we all know and love, and I can't remember which film it was. Not sure. Hey, Mr. Knox, you sell any of the t-shirts that would support a Mad Margaret t-shirt here in the States? I did actually. I'm going to do it. I'm going to get round to it. I did order t-shirts, and they came back misprinted. They just said Mad Malco instead of Mad Malco guitars, so I just kind of kept them, and I've been sort of giving them away. Someone won one last week on this very stream. That's the first face drip of sweat, so I shall look out my scabby towel. Ooh. Yeah. But I don't know, maybe I'd swap a t-shirt for a kebab. Definitely would. There is. I would need to, once I get them in, give me a shout and I'll see about posting them. I did try and do a thing with Zazzle and something else, but it was really, really, really complicated to set up, and I wasn't really that keen. The t-shirts I got weren't really that good, and they were coming in at 25 quid, and it was like kind of like, yeah, it seems enough a lot for a t-shirt. I really think a t-shirt should be like, I figure if I can get them for less than a tenner and sell them for 15 sort of thing. I just think 25 quid's enough a lot for a t-shirt. I wouldn't buy it. Oh, Chariots of Fire. That sounds like a challenge. Hey, Bobby, not had a false start. I'm that much into my Bucky. I'm playing the pink guitar, the Pink Panther. That's us. You've caught up now. I got some of those notes right. Hey, Ruben, cheers. Yes, I did give away a t-shirt. They're getting rare. I will buy, once I've got rid of another couple, give them away, I will buy a box of proper ones. If you could message me at Mad Malco Guitars and just say t-shirt, what size you want, I'll order you one, or what colour I can get it. There's also a bit of a mistake asked for like pink t-shirts and green ones, and I got black t-shirts with pink writing on them and green writing. So no, I want to get a quality product out. Oh, we're getting a wee. My wee community's getting a wee bit of what's going on here. Soundtrack here. Oh. Chance of Evangelist. Yeah, I don't think that bit. I mean, I have to say that, see, any time that's ever on TV, it's like, and it's coming up for sort of near the end, I will watch the bit where they're running along St Andrew's Beach, with the music playing, because that's awesome. I can't really remember what the rest of the film's like, but I do remember them running along St Andrew's Beach. Even funnier than that, I do remember there's a Vic and Bob, Reeves and Mortimer sketch where they're parodying that, and it's basically shot exactly the same with the music. It's Vic and Bob, and then Bob starts, it's all shot from the waist up, and Bob starts running really fast and overtaking everyone, and then it zooms out and Bob has asparagus instead of legs, and then up comes the advert. It's an advert for asparagus. Like, Vic and Bob, awesome stuff. The Shadows do that well. That might even be where I sort of stole that from. But to be totally fair, I don't think I've ever played that on a guitar before. I think it's one of the three things that I could sort of play on a keyboard, because it's in E minor. That, Like a Hurricane, and the bit of Tubular Bells. I can't get on with keyboards at all. I've been messing about with them. I went through a stage. That's why I went to mono synths, because you can only play one note at a time, so I can kind of handle playing riffs and then use this hand for going. I was actually playing my mini brute synth the other night. Good fun. Have you ever watched movies of my homie who recently lived in England? Oh, I mean, the Cassant Pizza, I had no idea. Stephen McDonald, Yamaha Pacifica 012 for £199 on Amazon. That's probably just the price they cost now. I think they were always kind of 180. I think they've snuck up a tenner every couple of years since they came out. I think maybe when they first came out, they were like 120, and we're talking about 1990 something, or 1996, or 20 years, and every couple of years they upgrade the pickups a little bit and add a tenner on, sort of thing. So it's probably worth it. I've actually got a guitar that I picked up yesterday, the day before, which I'm going to talk about. This is the cheap. I should describe it as the cheapest of the Yamahas, but this is the cheapest of the Yamahas. This is the ERG guitar, which you could pick up. They're really good for what it is you get. They're like fantastic guitars for learning on and stuff like that. And it's like, I've not decided what I'm going to do with it. I'm probably just going to paint it. The upgrading thing's kind of not worth it, but thinking about it. So that's kind of for what should I do to this. I was actually wondering about making like a saltire one with the Scottish flag on it, the blue and white check. But I'm not really decided. I think I might play that later. But it really is. It's kind of playable as it is. It's a shame they're all black and a little bit boring. Maybe just need some sort of thing going on. Hey Billy, how's it going? What's going on? Spectrum on tab and Strat on Xbox. Go for it, Billy. I know you've got an Xbox. Are you playing along with something, perhaps? The Electric Caveman, how's it going? USA National. I thought, well, it was going for the Hendrix at Woodstock version of Chariots of Fire, sort of. I wonder if he was doing it so that he had lots of time to think about what the next note was, or he'd actually practiced it or learnt it in any way beforehand. Hank Marvin at the movies. I bet you it's good. The thing that got me a bit with the Shadow stuff is they kind of embraced bad synthesizers a little bit in the 80s. Classical Gas has got that in it, where suddenly it's like pure. Sounds really good, but obviously Strat sounds always sounds the same, but when it gets to the 80s, they made some bad choices. But the good and the bad, the ugly is, I mean, it can't be better than the film. The film is absolutely brilliant. I couldn't believe how good that was when I watched that 6 months ago. I think it was found on Netflix or something, and it was like, it pure blew my mind. I mean, I've seen it before when I was a wee guy. I never really appreciate, there's so many bits where you're just sitting there and it's just like a desert shot of a guy in the distance walking. And it's like just pure 6 minutes of sitting there like that, and it's just kind of got the music just kind of going bang, dang, ding, ding, ding. Amazing film. Check it. If you've not seen that in decades, watch it. I bet you'll end up doing what I did and try and find the other two. I've managed to find, is it For a Few Dollars More? Is on YouTube. And I can't find A Fistful of Dollars, or what one. I know that there's three films. I can only find two of them. And yeah, Steve, you can pick up a Yamaha Pacifica for 100. Shouldn't be much problem. I think I even sold. I made an Iron Brew one. I think I sold it for 90. So there was enough in it for me to buy it, paint it, fix it up, and then still make money selling it at 90. Again, I've done a video, but haven't put it out yet. I've done half the video for that Yamaha, just thinking of what you can do to it. Just like, I'm thinking of doing it as a sort of very basic things you can do if you quite fancy the idea of being able to mess about with guitars, but you don't want to mess about with your Fender Strat or your Gibson SG. You're kind of like, but if you pick up one of these Yamahas, you can set it up and make it play pure amazing. And if you haven't had your Fender Strat set up properly in 10 years, you should be able to make, just by faffing about with the Yamaha, you should be able to make it play better than the Fender. Sort of idea. And it's great fun. Sweaty hot, but Bucky's cooling. Yeah. Hey Dace, how's it going? Hey Blacktooth Fox. Oh. That was live stream 18. Now this is we're now in live stream it's 20 tonight actually. It's like 20 weeks I've been doing this. That's kind of why I suppose it's become a sort of kind of used to it now. It's like I'm ready for it. I'm not really necessarily, I don't know. It's great having you guys all asking questions and talking nonsense. We don't really need to plan anything, but I can have things planned, but if I don't actually end up getting around to talking about it, I can do a video during the week. Great fun. Yeah. Hey Chris, you mentioned something about rally guitars the other week. Can't remember if you thought they were good or not. They are really good. Going from my vast experience of having had two, they're very much like Epiphones. If you look up, there is a Facebook site called, it's kind of like the BC Rich Junkies. It's Rally Les Paul Addicts or something it's called on Facebook. And the spiel about that is they were made in the Epiphone factory, like kind of as their own brand or something. And it basically feels and looks and just doesn't say Epiphone on it. Very similar to the sort of better, the higher end Epiphones, if you can get them. So yes, I would definitely, they are good. I would have one over an Epiphone. I've actually done a swap. It's twice gone now. I swapped it with my pal John for an Ibanez, which I would show you just now, but I don't like touching other people's guitars when I've been drinking. Not on live stream anyway. But so I've just done a swap with the Ibanez for a Gretsch tonight. So it'll be my first ever Gretsch. It's not the huge Gretsch. It's kind of the middle one. You get like a small one, and then you get a sort of 335, and then you get like a big massive White Falcon one. It's a sort of 335 one. So that could be fun. Hang 'em High. Is Hang 'em High? Is that the one? I think I remember that one. The thing that always gets me with some of these films is you're watching them, and then it's so ridiculously violent. There's like pure women getting raped and stuff like that, and folk get their heads cut off, and you're like, pure ridiculous. But it doesn't show you the gore level, but the violence is still there, so it's more upsetting. Especially when you're just sitting watching, especially when it's like a Clint Eastwood or John Wayne or something. Suddenly, you just like pure horrible things happen. My Name Is Nobody. Don't know that one. I'll look it up. The Spaghetti Trilogy is a staple of Blazing Saddles. I know every single word from Blazing Saddles. I used to watch that before. I used to think that was funny before I really got half the jokes, because there's that many jokes in it. If you're not old enough to understand the really racist ones, like the one where it's like they're trying to join the queue, to get to sign up for the baddies army, and the two of them mug like a couple of Ku Klux Klan guys, so they've got all the white stuff on, and to try and attract people to go and beat them up. Is it pure? Look, hey boys, look what I've got. It takes the hat off, and it's like he's a black guy. He's like, where are all the white women at? Can't do that. Can't talk about that. Can't laugh at that. It's hilarious. Might get in trouble for that. Les Dawson. Yes, I remember that Les Dawson thing is amazing. I know the one where he's crying and playing the piano, and it's like he plays every single note on the piano wrong, which is just like the amount of skill it takes to do that. Even if you try to play a random guitar, if it's in tune, it's very difficult to play random because you automatically just start playing things that you kind of know. It's like, right, so you've got to play it totally random and wrong every time. Amazing. SDV, it could be a streamliner. I don't know. I can't remember what the guy said. Streamliner should be right. I thought Gretsch must have. Did they not have like an Epiphone type range called Electromatic that came out a while ago? And then I think now they've maybe just all of them are called Gretsch. I mean, this thing's, I think looking them up, they're only like 400 quid new, so it's obviously not an American one. Must be some Korean type thing. Dayshake's 1980 SE 350. I know the SE series. I don't think it's 1980 though. Might be wrong. I had an SE 150, which is the single pickup version of that guitar. It was 1986, I think. So I think it's more likely to be so 84, 85, 86. I think 87 maybe might be when they went to look like Yamaha RGs. Could be. So the 350 must be similar to the 150 I had, because the numbering system doesn't work on that one either. Because like normally I've got another SE. I've got an SE 820. The 8 for like about 800 quid, and then 2 for 2 humbuckers, and then 0 for no single coils. Whereas the SE 150 and your SE 350 don't fit that because it doesn't have 5 humbuckers. That's the one thing that doesn't fit in when you look at all the other guitars that are kind of kicking about, like all your Pacifica 012 is the 0's the range, 1's 1 humbucker, and 2's 2 single coils. So that'll be an HSS. Or a 312 is about 300 quid, 1 humbucker, 2 single coils, or 321's, 2 humbuckers. Doesn't work that way though. Do you know they're called Spaghetti Western? We call the directors in Italian. I think they're filmed in Italy as well. Everyone in it's Italian. I watched a little bit about one of them. What's the cheap one? One of them was a pure cheap thing. And Clint Eastwood, there was so little money in it. Clint Eastwood did it basically because he quite fancied going to Italy. He quite fancied a couple of weeks in Italy and then not having to buy the plane ticket himself. But that's where he turned up. And the reason the dubbing's sometimes so bad is because he was warned when he did it, like, watch when you're working with these Italian directors, it's pure dodgy. They will lose all the audio tracks you've recorded, and half the film won't work. So they're taking 2 or 3 takes of every shot just because they assume one of them, the film's going to snap or something. And then it's kind of patched up. So that's basically what Clint Eastwood had to do, is write down all the things he said so he could remember what it was he said for overdubbing later on when he'd lost all the soundtracks. Also, he turned up and it was like there was no continuity problems. He basically had a poncho and a hat that he wore for the whole film for, like, I don't know, a couple of weeks filming it. So basically, if he lost that hat, he just didn't have a hat for some scenes. That's all right if you shoot in order, or his jacket. But that one was it's amazing, great fun. Yeah, Blacktooth, cheers, hit like, spike the like. It was like, I believe, the lingo that was used previously. I think I make money from it, so that'd be good. It doesn't cost anything. A Geojet, I do know. Gretsch is a funny thing. I've never really. No, Mickey, maybe I did. I've never really wanted a Gretsch, like from when I was younger. And then I got a shot of my pal Jerry had I can't remember what make it was. I think it was Riverside or something like that, where it was basically a sort of white Falcon, apart from it wasn't white, but it's like a sort of basically acoustic-sized, massive electric guitar, big, thick thing, got a Bigsby on it, and it was smashing. I really liked that. So I've kind of since then been looking for one, but not really. An Ibanez Roadster from '86. That's pretty good. '86 with locking tuners. It wouldn't have had locking tuners from in '86. I actually thought about digging it out the other day. I've got an '86 Roadster. That's the first year that if it's got a tremolo on it, it's actually got a licensed Floyd Rose and Ibanez Edge 1. I think it might not be if it's a lower down one with like a Stratty type trem. Oh. Hold on, 82. This, hold on, I'm going to scroll up and see what we're talking about here. So you talking about the Yamaha, yeah, Dace 80 SE350. Yes, but I mean the SE series is their Pacifica up until about 1987, and then they changed that line, became the RGX, which was basically not quite, but very, very close to Ibanez RG shaped. And then in the early 90s, they brought out the Pacifica to replace it, and then basically you still get Pacificas. So that's how it worked. Basically, it's an older Pacifica, but you can pick them up for not a lot of money. I've also seen one that's got a pink flip finish, which kind of looks like this, apart from when you turn the light, it goes purple. That looks pretty cool, and it wasn't that expensive. It was only 100 and something quid. You know what I mean? For like an 80s Yamaha. Yeah. It could be 82 days. If you look up when the SEs were about, I think 82 is a bit early. Because at that point they were still doing, this is Yamaha, isn't it? I really am not sure what Yamaha were doing in 82. In 82 they were building my SG, so they were building the SG shapes. Don't know. Rawhide, the poncho, the hat, the gun. Yeah. And that's an MO23180. I don't know, Dace. A Pontiac, I'm not sure how that serial number comes in. I can see why you thought 80, because it starts, you're thinking it's M and then 0 for 80. That makes sense. And then it could, yeah, you're thinking it could be MO and then 2 for 82. I don't know. There is a Yamaha serial number thing. The serial numbers on Yamaha are in the show-in or the show-in, or I wasn't that far off. I was talking about it up at I was doing that video at my pal Scott's house. I said something like the show-in dating thing, which is something to do with empires of Japan. So it's like, you know, the number 023 will just equate to 1986 or something. It's like, I'm not sure exactly what it is though, but I wasn't that far off with Shaolin, which is like from Into the Dragon. It's something similar to that name, which Yamaha used, so it will be dateable. It won't tell you what decade it is though. That's right. So that'll say the M0 will tell you it's something 6, but it won't tell you whether it's 86, 96, 2006. So you have to look at it. It's 80 something, the SE series. So it can be worked out. Mule Series Epic. I don't remember which one that one is. That's it. Oh, Billy Duffy has a Gretsch and Malcolm Young iconic ones for me. I'm not sure who Billy Duffy is, but yes, I think the Malcolm Young one is kind of that one I've got. I think I mean Malcolm. I'm not young anymore. But there you go. So it could be in there. I knew George Harrison had one. Like Gretsch used to live near the factory in Brooklyn. Cool. Turned into condos for rich celebrities. You can see it. EZ from the east side of Manhattan. Right. 1988, Dace, that sounds, I think that's right slap bang and when the SE series were kicking about, I think. Don't rightly know exactly. I'm sure the one I had was 86, and I think the session one I've got, which I've just done a swap with, I think it's 86 as well. So round about then, and I'm pretty sure by the time it got to, I'm not sure when they did the RGX are awesome. My first guitar was an RGX 321P, but back in those days, it didn't. Nobody knew what a Floyd Rose was or how it worked. So mine was either sitting up like this or sunk way into the body. I never knew how to work it. Hey Cameron, I don't think you've missed very much. I'm just rambling. I'm almost down to the label in the bucky. The sweat's coming in. I'm started talking rubbish. Getting good. Don't think really much matter. Just talking rubbish as usual. Early to midday, it was going near for Yamaha bikes. You find out when you look up Yamaha on eBay, you type in Yamaha and you get a number, and then it'll come up with motorbike parts. The YPS Power Valve version sounds good. Don't know anything about motorbikes. I do know Yamaha make the best boat engines and always have made the best boat engines. Actually, my engine is a Tohatsu, which is made in the 2000s, but is basically exactly the same engine as the 40 horsepower Yamaha, like without from about the mid 80s or something, but it was new. The thinking there was like having lots of complicated stuff, you know, like all your fuel injection systems and all that. What you're doing with a boat engine is you're sticking it on the back of a boat with salt water, and it's getting soaked and salted and heated up and frozen. So basically the simpler the better. So my Tohatsu was built for the Japanese fishing fleet. Basically simpler, not as advanced engines. Basically the old Yamaha design. Yeah. Well, a Yannick maiden tour plectrum. That's pretty good. I do like Yannick. He is funny. He does one of my favourite tricks he does is he kind of bends notes. Does that. It's pretty cool. I do like him. I think the guy does seem very funny. It's like always funny when you watch him. Me and my pal went to an Iron Maiden phase where we're buying concert DVDs from like the sort of modern era when they've got the three guitarists, a really good surround sound system, so you could split them up. And you can always tell Yannick's solos because you can never hear a single note. It's just hundreds of fast notes. Whereas you hear the other two guys, they're kind of giving it da 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 da. There's a wee melody to follow. Yannick's just nonsense. Great fun. Conic, mate, boat engines. I've never heard of a Conic boat engine, unless they've got a different name for the marine section. But one of a Yannick plectrum, that's pretty cool. I don't have any Iron Maiden. They're too big for me to have met outside the ABC. That's what, I've got my jacket signed by Saxon in Europe and bands more of that size, which were kind of probably about the same size as Iron Maiden at a certain point in time in about 1980 or something. Hey, Kim, Malcolm, have you ever tried or know about a Harley Benton TE80? A sort of Prince copy? Having a few beers watching the stream, an SX vintage Strat copy. Yeah, I know the one. I had the first guitar that really put me into this. You don't need to spend hundreds of pounds on a guitar. Was actually a guitar that looked very much like Prince's one. At the time, I didn't realise it was a Prince's one. It was basically a Hondo. It was a Telecaster. It had this sort of leopard skin scratch plate, and it had a pointy headstock, not unlike this, or like a Jackson or something. And it was in cash converters, and it was like, I think it was 30 quid. And I bought it because I thought it just looked really amazing. I'd never heard of Hondo. It wasn't a Japanese one, it was a Korean one. And then I got home, and all I had to do was glue the nut on because the nut had slipped. And it was, this is amazing. And I suddenly realised that, hold on, I was totally under the impression that the rules were to practice with, it's fine, you can spend 100 quid on a guitar. If you were going into a studio with a band, you needed an Epiphone or a Squire, like a decent £400 guitar to do that. And if you were serious about it, you needed to have a Gibson at £1,000 or whatever. Or I don't think there was much as that back then. And then it was really, this Hondo was really just like kind of playing it. And I had my Schecter at the time, being one of the best tellies ever made. And you're kind of going, the Hondo's like not really, I mean, the Schecter's better in every way, but not that much better. The Hondo was 95% of the way there on every single aspect. And it's like, so that was kind of what got me into the cheaper and more obscure guitars. It's like, so that's where I've got a lot of the ones I've got, you know, things like, you know, the Arias and the BC Rest doesn't really count, but you know what I mean. And the SX are fantastic. I've had a few SXs. I don't know why they're so cheap. They're kind of at the point of being slightly too cheap, I think. Like, if you, I don't know, I haven't been into Guitar Shop for 2 years, obviously, but before that we'd go in and it's like the cheapest Squire was like 120 quid, and then for that price you could buy an SX one, which wasn't like a cheaper version, The Squire Bullet maybe didn't have a trem, it was a thinner body, was only available in red or white, sort of that sort of powdery, we didn't bother painting the neck vibe. And then you get the SX one, which has got the vintage, super orangey, glossy neck, which I like, and it's in cool colours. And I think the difference is the vintage just isn't worth that much money when you try and sell it in a year's time. Whereas the Squire will just, especially if you buy a Squire Telecaster rather than a Stratocaster. When you buy a Squire Tele, I don't know how much a Bullet Tele is, about 130, 140 quid. Have it for a year, decide you don't like playing guitar, you're still going to get 100 quid for it. Whereas that's the difference if you buy your Yamaha Pacifica there at 200 quid. Yes, a much better guitar. It'll always be a much better guitar no matter what happens. It's not good. It's going to drop in value like mad because everyone sees you see Yamaha Pacificas all the time for, maybe not all the time for 50 quid, but all the time for 90, I think, sort of that kind of price. Maybe not one in mint condition, you know what I mean, but maybe one with a couple of stickers on it or something. You're definitely picking them up for sort of 50 to 90 type thing, and they're definitely worth it. Oh, you got a Dory? Haha, awesome. I know what a Dory is. I know what Mercury engines are as well. Mercury, actually, you could buy my Tohatsu engine, branded Mercury and branded Mariner, because they just bought the engines from Tohatsu and then badged them themselves. So depending on how big your little Dory is, I had an 11-foot Del Key, but you're in America, so it's probably not the same. You'll have a different company, is it Boston Whaler or something like that? I had an 11-foot one, which really was rubbish. It was skitey, wobbly, and then I had a 13-foot one, which was only 2 feet bigger, but it was amazing. It was just a big, massive landing craft type thing. I basically just put any engine on the back of it, and it was awesome. I remember we had a Seagull on it at one point. It was made you do about half a mile an hour. It was fine. You just get drunk in the boat. There was that much room. Hold on. Hey Scott, I'm getting a wee bit behind in my. Someone's talking about boat engines. It's like, boat engines. Oh, boats, awesome. I could show me your plectrum. I've never heard of show me your plectrum. Got the SX Tele. I think you know that. Still want to replace my Phoenix Tele. I think the SX are amazing. I just don't think there's really that much. You don't see them very often cheap. I don't know what a Tele, especially. I think that the Strats are maybe a bit lower down, but a Tele's a Tele, and you can't pick up a cheap Tele. I mean, even if you look at like the Harley Benton Teles, which I'm pretty sure used to be like 70 quid or something like that, and now they're maybe like 90, 100 quid. That's how much they go for second hand. So you can't really use. All right, Blacktooth. Yeah, so it'll be a Del Key Dory there you had then. Yeah, found a Tesco 60s guitar. Pickups of unique sound. Prices dropping. I don't know how low it'll drop. I've had a few mad 60s guitars through recently. I had a Jedson Telecaster, and I had a Sakai, similar sort of thing, apart from it wasn't Telecaster shaped. And I put them on for what I thought was a pretty top line price, and they both sold in 10 minutes. It was just like, they're kind of funny because you can't compare it to a normal guitar. It's a different thing. And so that's where, if you're looking at just like you can compare this to like a modern Strat, and it does really well against the modern Strat, and build and feel and sound and all that. This, you're talking, you'd be up at a USA one anyway to get one that could match this for just feel and quality and build. Whereas you can't really compare it to the old sort of Jedsons, and they work, but they're kind of quirky is the word. They do have a thing. They do a thing, but they're not really. You're not really going to be able to play the Shadows on them or Pink Floyd. It's going to be amazing for White Stripes or garage music or whatever that is. But they're just not. They're not fantastic instruments. And saying that, I do quite like them. I would be tempted to have kept either the Sakai or the Jedson I had, but they went for too much money. They kind of almost got the same as what I paid for this, innit? And it's like, okay, it's a much more desirable and cooler looking thing. This one is pink and looks a bit like see if you'd like a lung or something you took out and just flung it on the counter, it would kind of look like that, I think. What about a dinghy? I'm going to call her Dignity. Why not? Blackmore or Iommi, who's the best? It's I'll tell you who it was first. It was Richie Blackmore. That was what ruined me against a lot of modern music when I was, we're talking 14, something like that, because I had a Rainbow Greatest Hits tape, even though I didn't know it was Rainbow that was on it. And I remember that was when Iron Maiden were slightly after Iron Maiden's time and before Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction. And everyone was, listen to this amazing guitar solo in Appetite for Destruction. And it was like, it's quite a good guitar solo. But I'd heard Long Live Rock and Roll and Kill the King and all that. It's a different league. But as soon as I heard Iommi is the riff master, definitely. it's Iommi. He's just totally cool. And the thing is as well, whenever you see Tony and even the interviews from the 80s and the 90s, when he's obviously full of drugs, he's still pure cool. He's so comfortable with what he's done. It's a pure, pretty much invented about 6 different genres of heavy metal. Yeah. It's cool. Well, we just did it because it was kind of cool. And you can just imagine he's just kind of like normal. I think it'd be pretty cool being stuck with him, in a lift or something like that. I don't think it would be that. I don't think he's lost his original, whatever you call it, working classness or whatever. I do like him. Like, Kenny's Music, Glasgow doing a square telly at 130. To be honest, why are you not buying it? 130 quid for a square telly. And I know for a fact that if I see a square telly for less than 80 or 90, I'm buying it. And you're talking only £130 new, and you're talking about buying it, enjoying it for a couple of years, especially if you get the right colour. If you get a white one, that'd be awesome. Or yeah. But I would definitely say if you're going to buy one, I'd probably think the SX one's probably better if it's the same price. But there's not that much wrong you can get. Not much you can get wrong with a telly. Hey Kim, thanks for appreciate your views about the cheaper end guitars like Harleys and SXs. Now, you get good guitars all over the place. I like cheap guitars. I mean, pretty much every guitar I've got, you could sort of argue fine falls into the cheap category, apart from the boring section. So I've got like a Fender Strat and a Gibson SG. And if you went into guitar or a guitar shop just now, with the amount of money I paid for these sort of things, then that would be a cheap guitar. You're talking about going in and you're halfway up the Squire range to get to what I pay for a Gibson or a Fender. It's fun being, I don't know, but I think my thing is I just love guitars that are really good. And sometimes it's like, you kind of know when you see one that kind of looks like this, the possibilities of it, because this is really, really unfashionable and horrible looking. So you wonder, what does it play like? If Westone, instead of making, well, this is the last year, but this is more common of what Westone made. This is it kind of looks like a Westone Thunder, but basically they kind of look like this. Maybe not this paint job. This is a 1984 paint job. This sort of shape of guitar, they were making these, and in all honesty, at the time, this being the Strat one, because it's the Strat scale, is pretty much better than the equivalent Fender Strat at the time, but it was about a quarter of the price. And the same with the Gibson-y one, was as good as the Gibson at least at the time, but this shape. If they'd made this Strat shaped, these things would be worth a bomb, like all your Grecos and stuff like that. But they didn't. They were trying to do an original design, and design-wise, it's kind of, it grows on you and you end up liking it. But if they just made it look like a Les Paul, they'd be worth tons. So if you ever look up Edwards or Orville guitars, or even Tokais, and any of the companies that kind of stayed doing copies, they're worth huge amounts of money because they were just better than what anyone else, what Gibson, the Americans, were doing at that time in the 80s. And they were a quarter of the price. So really, the problem is, at the time, you could have gone in and bought, like a Washburn Falcon, or not this at the same time, something like that for maybe, I don't know, half, 2/3 the price of a Gibson Les Paul. and it's a better guitar. It's better in every way. Like every single possible thing about it is miles better than the 1980 Gibson they were making. But now that 1980 Gibson is worth 2-3 grand, something like that. The Washburn Falcon's sitting at 600 quid. It's like it's still miles better. People want the Gibson though. Cork guitars are cool guitars. I don't know how now, but they used to be shipped. I think you'll find that you've owned a Cork. Everyone's owned a Cork. If you look at Squires, the ones that start IC are made by Cork, or Cortez was the original company, and they did their own thing as well. The thing you'll find is a wee bit the same as with the SX, as opposed to a certain degree the rallies or something like that. They're obviously sitting there making, Squire Strats in their factory, and they're selling them the Squire Strat for 150 quid. They're probably having to pay Fender 50 quid of that, whereas they can just make their own total copy of it, make it a slightly better guitar, and still sell it for 100 quid. So Cork did have some. They did have problems with staff. I seem to remember there was a big tower in the middle of the factory, like it's like an observation tower, and they had to close it off because folk kept jumping off it. Apparently, like workers, like really doing badly. So maybe ethically they're not the best company, but they do make good guitars. Cork, Samick. These days they know exactly what they're doing. It's not so much if you go back to the 80s when they started out. They gradually just got better and better as they learned what it is they could do or what they could get away with and what they had to spend time on. We actually did with Morbid Angel. We did actually get Cork branded guitars here, as well as many other guitars made by Cork that didn't say anything about being Cork on them. Okay, you seen the Des Lauriers guitars? Another Matsumoku. Des Laurier, no idea, but you're in America or Canada, so it could be he was just a Canadian importer. I don't imagine over there you ever see Arbiters or Antoria or Avon or Grant or any of these makes, even though you can probably get exactly the same guitar, like identical, apart from when the guy from Grant's ordered it from the factory in 1975. He ordered 100 with Grant on the headstock, and maybe you find that your chap in America ordered 100 with, what does it say, Deloriers on it. Could be, but a lot of these companies, as you say, well, because this Matsumoto closed down, it stopped being economic to build guitars in Japan, kind of in about 1987, 1988. They've just moved on to Korea. Everyone did. Well, even the Japanese companies did. Even Westone did, and Westone were actually owned by Matsumoto, and they went to Korea when the factory closed down. And to be totally honest, although it sounds really snobby and stuff, and I do rate the Korean guitars, they're a league down from the Japanese ones, pretty much right across all the makes. Like if you've got an Aria Pro or a Washburn or a Westone. I've never, to be fair, I've not actually tried a Westone one, but the other ones, it is quite a significant downgrading. Although quite often they look fantastic and they've got Floyd Roses on them. They've got your tiger patterns, and they might even have branded hardware, but they're just not built the way the Japanese did it. They're really sort of, I think it's a pride tonight. Everyone's always it's like Japanese a wee bit like Klingons, it's like pure honor and all that. I think it sounds pretty ridiculous, but I think there's an element of that in these, where it's like, we are going to make the best guitar in the world, and it would be embarrassing if we produce a guitar that isn't better than everything else. And it's like kind of like the Yamaha, but possibly even Yamaha's or Ibanez, not maybe where they're built just now, but the actual views of the company. So obviously, if they are trying to get guitars built in Korea or Indonesia or whatever it is, they'll go out and they'll get the samples. They'll go, that's not good enough for having our name on it. I think there's an element of those. I was thinking about this. What's a great, cheap, underrated guitar made like the vintage ones? Oh, hold on, we've caught up a little bit. Where are we going? Hey, Jason, I think I already said what's up. How's it going? Replica, I'm a big fan of Revelation for my money. This sort of Westone way back in the day. Possibly what Revelation. I've seen a few of them. They're kind of very they're in this Jazzmaster Jaguar range era type things, sort of kind of look like 50s, 60s guitars. My pal Craig's got one. It was excellent. I'd pick up so much of my Yamaha RGX actually. Yeah, no, really good. I like them. Quality wise, it's like, as I say, it's like they've got amazing features and they're really well designed. The quality level isn't at this, because this is kind of at the sort of quality level that is not as good as it gets, but it's not far off as good as a guitar can be. They are good though, and we're talking about they're well above acceptable and into the great, but not quite into the is this a handmade custom shop thing? Because these are handmade. Yeah. It could be like Westone. I think Westone were quite popular in the day. I mean, I think the Westone Thunder was like one of the most important guitars ever made, like in the top 10, because they were just able to produce a guitar and a bass that were basically pro level for, like 1.5 times the cheapest possible guitar you could buy, which was just plywood and everything was absolute crap on it. For £100, you could buy that, or you could spend 150 quid and get a Westone, and you're getting go-to hardware, things like coil splits, solid woods, amazing fret, just like a pro level guitar. But the cheaper end of the Westone ones are maybe a little bit more basic. So just plain black, plain red, you know what I mean? Couple of humbuckers, couple of switches. Things are just simple, uncomplex, but they spent the money on making them brilliantly. Do you know anything about LFD by Indie Guitar? Got a Korean bass. I know Indie are basically like Westone, as in Indie where I'm now sitting there thinking, was it Indie? I think it is Indie. They are the house brand of Samick, the Korean factory who made all the most desirable, well, there's earlier Epiphones, but the really desirable modern Epiphones from like in the late 90s. Samick made them. They had their own brand, kind of the similar to the idea of Westone being owned by the Matsumoto factory, Indie with the Samick factory. And I've had a couple of them and they were fantastic. But the same thing which afflicts a lot of these guitars, if it was just a Strat, it'd be a fantastic Strat. If it was a Telly, if it was a Les Paul, it's not. The one I played was kind of like a PRS-y type thing, and I don't think that doesn't have the Jimi Hendrix didn't play one of them, so it's kind of not there. But I mean, amazing, brilliant quality. Basically, what you get now is a £1,000 guitar, like the Korean, because the Korean guitars are now really expensive. They never used to be. They are now, but they are really good. Hey, Pontiac, talk to Jeff. It's like I was thinking, what's the great cheap underrated guitar that was made today, like vintage ones we love today? People are always going to want the vintage ones. It's just like they kind of tried it. I mean, I think that's why I found it so exciting round about the early 80s, when all these guitar companies were trying to make different designs of guitar. In the 70s, you were basically looking at Les Paul Strats. You didn't really get that many oddballs, and then there was a wee spurt up until this is kind of the last of the interesting shapes. And then once Steve Vai came out with his Gem, he just got variations on a Gem where the only guitar, he still got, and it kind of died a little bit. He kind of killed it all once the Super Strat came in. I know this on paper is a Super Strat, but to me, it's not Stratty enough to be a Super Strat, even though it is Strat scale and it does all the Strat things. To me, this isn't a Super Strat. This is slightly before Super Strat sort of thing. A bit contentious, perhaps. But cheap, if you're looking for the best guitar, Yamaha Pacificas and all that are brilliant, especially if you buy them second hand. There's a Westone, one who knocks Mr. White, the Westone Pantera in Holland for €270. Found the Ibanez for much less. Depends which Ibanez it is. I mean, these are pretty good. It doesn't look fantastic though. I think the red one looks a little bit less ridiculous. And And it's mad. See, this one doesn't have a tone control, right? I very rarely use a tone control. See, as soon as there isn't one there, I've never touched a tone control, but see if there's not one there, you're suddenly aware of the fact going, I kind of wish it wasn't as bright. Can I maybe just turn the tone down? Only because it's not there. I'll never get that when I've got a guitar that doesn't have a tone control. I don't know how it works. I mean, yes, I think Revelation are awesome. The few that I've tried, brilliant. They kind of look, they don't look cheap, but you look at them and they've kind of got a, is it for real type vibe in the picture. So maybe that's why they're not as popular as they should be. When you actually play one, you go, oh, this is really good. But in a photo, you kind of look at it and you go, it's kind of got a wee bit of that too good to be true. I was like, well, it's only 300 quid and it's got, you know, like a jag trem and lots of pickup options and all that. And it seems a wee bit, how come for that money, I'm looking at a pretty basic Squire, you know, and they can do all this extra stuff. Shared love of Westone is how I found this channel. Rocking. I used to hate Westone. My first bass was a Westone DX and I hated it, Spectrum. And then of recently, I'm still not a fan of the Spectrum shape, although that one I've got there is actually called a Spectrum. That was before, that was 1984. In 1985, the Spectrum range came out. So that's, although it says Spectrum on it, it's not really a Spectrum. Oh. Yeah, but I can totally see the joy in the Revelation guitars. There's also the other company which I got mixed up with Revelations. Sounds sort of similar. Reverend, kind of not 100% miles off looks wise and the sort of vibe they've got as well. They're good as well. Westone for the win, always. Just watch out for Westones if you see BC Rich copies. I've played a couple of them and they are nothing. They've got that logo on the headstock. But you see them when you look up Westone, it's like they've always got like a, is it like a white? They've got like a black covered pickup. It looks a bit like an EMG type thing, and then they've got like a white, a double cream, sort of looks a bit like a DiMarzio type thing, and they're made of MDF, and basically they're nothing to do with Westone whatsoever, apart from some company has, you know, managed to buy the rights to the name. They're terrible. Oh, no, they're not terrible. If you're talking about picking one up for 40 or 50 quid, yep, go for it. But I mean, looking for Japanese instruments. I wasn't really sure how it would work because I think, like, now obviously I've been doing this channel for probably, is it 10 years yet? No, I think it's 2014 or something I started, or 2012. And I was putting on guitars that nobody had done videos of. So it's kind of weird. The thing I found bizarre is kind of learning as we go. It's like there just seems to be like a magic thing that happens round about the late 70s up till the sort of mid 80s where they're just all, it doesn't really seem to matter which make it is you buy from Japanese guitars. They all seem to be amazing, like Vantage and Washburn and Westone and Aria and Westbury and all these things. It just seem to be absolutely ridiculously good guitars for that short period of time, and that's why I like them. And then now, once you get used to looking at them and stuff like that, you start appreciating them a bit more. But it's good. Western for the win. A good friend of mine is selling his Marlin Sidewinder. Evidently made the old GDR, but supposedly not very good. But I like the idea that it was built in old East Germany. Yes, for a year, Marlin were made in East Germany, which means they are made of, which is an element I do like, they're made of a strange wood. They're made of wood that grows in East Germany. I have done one guitar that was a Marlin, didn't have a logo on it. It's kind of like the Soviet guitar, or maybe a little bit one of your Tesco's or something. It's not made of the normal wood that we're all used to. It's not like a maple neck and an ash or a mahogany body. It's like beech or chestnut or larch or whatever. I'm trying to think of, I'd imagine East Germany's got similar trees to here, you know what I mean? Those kind of trees. But I would definitely have a look at, think about that. It was solid wood. If it's the GDR one, I think that could be quite interesting. The later ones, some of them actually say made in Wales on the back, or they've got Wales in the neck plate. They're just, sorry if anyone's got them, they're rubbish. They basically kind of look like this. sort of, apart from they're a bit more strat shaped. But you've got your Floydy type thing. You've got a pickup that actually looks very, very remarkably like this, like sort of maybe bar magnets on some of them, stuff like that. And they're heavy and they're horrible. I've not played one that was good. Not saying there's not good ones out there, but they're not on my list of guitars I look at. I will be looking on Facebook Marketplace and I'll see someone selling a Marlin Sidewinder for 25, 30 quid and I'll not even look at it. Especially if it's got the Floyd Rose type looking bridge, because there's always bits missing, they break, and I'm not sure how easy it is to just plop a Floyd Rose in. Obviously you can pick up a Floyd Rose for 15 quid or something just now, so you just put that in, but the hole's not the right shape and they're just... I wouldn't. Marlin, I just kind of avoid mostly, to be honest. I'm sure they did decent ones as well. Bass picker plectrum. I played bass with a plectrum for many years, a decade. And then one time I was sitting watching telly and I just thought I can't be bothered finding a plectrum, so I just played with my fingers and it's so much better. So now I pretty much play for the last 5, 6, 7 years. I pretty much always play bass with my fingers. You just get so much more control over it. It's so much more the ability to kind of go ba-dum and stop it. Whereas a pick, you don't get the same thing there. I can still sort of use them. Seen a Sigma Martin E13 electric guitar. Is that I wish I had it sitting about. Martin did make some electric guitars, but not very many. I've got a... Is the Sigma... I wish I could find it quickly. I've got some Grant guitars, which was like a shop in Glasgow in the 80s, and they bought guitars in or badged Grant, but I think they are old Martin Sigmas. It's a kind of... I've got like a couple of one pickup ones and one with 3 pickups in it, or 2 pickups in it, and it's sort of... It's a unique shape. I'm pretty sure I've seen a Martin Sigma that looks like that. Be interesting. It's an amazing guitar, but I think Martin Sigma was one of these things that, we've got this great idea, so they made 1,000 guitars, nobody ordered them, so they actually only like 100 of them actually got made as Martins, and the rest gets sold off to other people. Not so sure. Bass pick, plectrum, thumb and finger. I can't do the thumb thing. I wish I could. Oh, and heavy knife. What's the most disappointing guitar you've bought new? See, that goes back a bit, because I, in my life, have bought 1, 2, 2 new guitars. I bought my Yamaha acoustic. 3. I bought my Yamaha acoustic, my Yamaha 12-string acoustic, and my original Epiphone SG new. I think that's it. I think everything else I've ever bought has been used. I think. So I'll go for the most disappointing one I've had was I've talked about it a couple of times. It was an Epiphone SG from last year. I think it was green, and the reason I was so disappointed with it, I didn't buy it, but one of my pals bought it, and he gave it to me saying, there's something not quite right with the bridge or the frets. It's kind of buzzing, and the fretwork on it was awful, right? Like pure ridiculous. There's no way anyone looked at that and made sure it worked. So I found that really disappointing. But the actual guitar itself, it was 350 quid, and it's like, when I saw they brought it out, I seriously considered buying one. There's a Pelham blue one, so you've got like a 2 P90s wrap over bridge. Pelham blue doesn't have the Epiphone headstock. It's got this sort of modern, or I think it's the old-fashioned Epiphone headstock. Look amazing, but I was really disappointed with that guitar. It just wasn't very good. It was just rubbish. I mean, it's like it was nothing. I mean, if the thing is that actually quite a few folk have commented in the video. Not normally people are on, the chats and stuff like that, but there's a few folks up here. I've got one of these, and it's the best guitar in the world ever. And it's like, it's just, have you played a lot of guitars? Because that's the thing. I don't think there's really anybody who could play that SG, set up, everything sorted on it, set up playing like an absolute dream, could play that for a couple of minutes and then just get handed this or this, you know, and then say that this is not 10 times better. I can't see how that would be, although it is an SG, and it did look fantastic. Yeah. So, I mean, the most disappointing one I bought you, there isn't really one. I've only bought 3 new guitars, and they were all good. I have bought some guitars I've been most disappointed with. I've bought, what are the ones where I thought, one of them was, it was called an SD Curly. Have you ever heard of that? It's like it's sort of, I think they were sort of Japanese, but it's a sort of like a through neck, but not quite. So if you imagine the neck goes to here, so all the pickups and stuff are mounted on the neck, and if you flip it over, the neck plate goes all the way down here. So it's basically you can unbolt the neck, but the neck is, that's basically the body unbolts, if you know what I mean, but the actual neck can stay in tune. And it was awful. I'm not sure. I don't think it was I don't know, maybe a Hondo or something. But I bought that thinking this is going to be amazing, and it was just awful. Really, really disappointing. I did do well out of that deal because that was when I saw the Westone Concorde in the guy's living room, so I stuck in the corner with lots of cracks on it. And I was like, even going, right, because I actually bought it was Gumtree or eBay or something. I bought the SD Curly, and this was like, what kind of guitar is that? That was quite interesting. That being, it's all smashed up. When we're going to take it to the car boot sale, I was like, you take 20 quid for it. And his wife was like, yeah, totally brilliant, yeah. So I got a Westone Concorde for 20 quid. And I think basically I cleaned up the SD Curly and just sold it for the same as what I bought. I think I sold it for 100 quid. You know, so you see them for 500 quid or 500 quid at the time. This one was all scabby. And I was like, 100 quid. So somebody, but it's just rubbish. Even though it looked like it should have been amazing. Party time. Pearwood for the that sounds right. Could very well be Pearwood. Yeah. I think so. I can't remember who else made. I definitely had a GDR Strat. It was kind of funny. I'm sure it had you know, like the truss rod cover. It's kind of like the modern Charvels where you get like a wheel. You can stick a nail in as opposed to being like an Allen key. I'm pretty sure it had that. Yeah, fantastic. What do you think of EMG at? I don't. Y007P. The only EMGs I ever had were in a Godin, and it was a really expensive super strat type thing. I didn't like them at all. I do remember plugging it into my wee amp, my wee Laney there, which has 2 inputs. It's got, I think it's high and low. It's high and low. And after deciding I didn't like it, and I think I put it up for sale, I was doing the video for it, and I tried sticking it into the low, and it made a huge difference. They were much better, but there were 3 single coils, and I didn't like them. And it's, but as you say, if you're using tons of distortion, it might be a different thing. I've actually got a set of active pickups from a Squire Jaguar Jazzmaster, like a modern one. The guy hated the Jaguar tremolo, so he bought this sort of heavy metal type one with EMGs in it, and then took the EMGs out, and I put Warmans, or I think it was Warmans I put in it, or something like that, to make it kind of. So he bought the heavy metal one and then made it more vintagey. I've still got those pickups to put into something, but I think it just depends on what it is you want to sound like. I mean, like sort of more modern stuff, definitely. Whereas for me, I'm kind of more like the distortion I want is more like a sort of like a fuzz face, sort of going for a sort of Hendrixy, maybe going into somewhere between sort of Hendrix and the sort of late 60s type sound up till, you know, Priest, I suppose, but not really so much after, even though this guitar looks very like the music that was coming out when this guitar came out in 1986 was just kind of past the sound that I really like of a guitar. I think, if that makes sense. It's a German slammer, same as Divermary, never played Stagg. Yeah, no, Morbid Angel, no, actually they were actually made in East Germany. But I know what you mean. I think there's actually something to be said about the Westone. I was talking about the Westone brand. I think they were bought by a German company, so they sometimes might say something about being German in the the PO box, but as you say, made in China or Korea or Indonesia or somewhere and just imported. I don't know Dimaveri or Never Play, but Stagg make it here, and you get good stags. If you're a wee tip for you, if you're looking up cheap guitars to maybe mod and turn into buckcasters or something like that, assuming you're not in Glasgow, if you get a Stagg Strat, see the Stags that have got like a metal plate, kind of looks like a Ford badge with Stagg or something engraved in it, stuck into the headstock. They're good. They're all good guitars. Everyone I've come across that's had that has been really good. Later on, they stopped putting that piece of metal in, and the quality went down quite a bit. I think I did a video of 2 Stags I had. I bought them both. I think I paid 25 quid for each of them. And one of them my pal Ivor picked up for me in Erskine or something. And these 2 guitars were just black Strats. Obviously the same model number, but maybe 5 years apart. And the one that had the metal bit on it had everything, was just 25% better. So it had a nicer rosewood, it was better cut, better frets, better tuners, better pickups, everything, and that metal plate. And the other one looked the same until you went up to it, and it was just like, everyone's just not quite as good. So I think what had happened is they'd maybe had, we want to put out a Strat for £110, and then 5 years later it's like, pure, well, we kind of want to keep the £110, so let's see if we can get the guitar cheaper from somewhere else. I think that's what happened. I don't know what Harley Benton do. I think they probably get their own. They make so many. They probably got a special deal with one specific factory. Gibson Les Paul Studio, 100 Problems. Dumb break, I guess, but a 74 Strat 97. Absolute pig dog. A 74 Strat 97 you probably got for a decent price. I bet you now, regardless of how good it is, I bet you it's still worth a couple of grand. I'm pretty sure I remember, because the thing about the 70 Strats is folk didn't like them. They weren't very good. So that was round about that sort of 70s. I think it was 1983 vintage guitars really became a thing. I mean, people always wanted like an original Les Paul, but that's because they didn't really make Les Pauls anymore, and a pre-CBS Fender. But those, apart from that, vintage guitars didn't really mean anything. It wasn't until sort of the 80s that suddenly you started getting the Japanese companies, especially the Fender JV, they were actually, at some point, I think it was actually Mr. Arai, who owns Aria, went to, and he started realizing, hold on, why are we copying a current Les Paul and a current Stratocaster? When I went to the American guitar shows, everyone was pure swooning over, the 58 Les Paul and the 50s Telecasters and stuff. And he's like, why are we copying the modern? Why don't we copy those 50s ones that everyone really likes? This era was born, sort of thing. At least that's my thinking about it anyway. Not a Les Paul hater, but can't really get into them. I haven't. Maybe I've just not found the right Les Paul yet. Out of all the Les Pauls I've played ever, my favourite one was a guy in Maryhill who bought a wee Fender 15G amp off me or something. I don't know, for a tenner or something. He's like, oh, buy the amp. That's great, that's brilliant. He's like, I need to get it delivered. I was like, but for a £10 amp, I'll give you a tenner petrol or £5 petrol, whatever. So I just did it anyway. Other guy, and he had a LPJ, which he paid £300 for. And this thing sounded amazing. It was really light, and it had sort of covered pickups. And I thought, LPJ, it's really good. It's like the cheapest Les Paul I think they've ever made. But I was really impressed, but especially I think, because it was 300 quid. If he'd said it was £1,000 or 500 quid, no, it's 300 quid. It seemed awfully good. I've looked for them, and they're now 700-800 quid. Which is a shame. But I'm not really that keen on. To be honest, the Washburn Wings that I pure love and I have the whole set of, the whole cauldron, they're kind of Les Paul-y. They look, to me, my eye, much prettier than a Les Paul, but they've still got the same, they don't really sit on your leg properly, they're really heavy. They are kind of double-cut Les Pauls. But I've never thought Les Pauls really looked that good. Just, you see it with the eye, and it's maybe something, if you thought this back in when you were 15 or something like that, kind of that's always going to be a wee bit of a niggle. That's probably why I've not got any Westone Spectrums, because when I was 18 or something, when I started playing bass, I had that Westone Spectrum bass that I absolutely hated. So still memories of just my hatred of that guitar. I assume it probably had the original strings on it. The neck was probably all over the place. It probably needed adjusted. It was manky, I know that. It could have been good, but I just didn't like the look of it. Walnut the Paul, that was nothing special. I think I've played it. I think at the same time they did an SG. It was rather nice. Walnut's a funny looking wood though. It kind of looks fake. It's a sort of. It doesn't look like real wood. I mean, it is. But it's not. A silver burst, a blaster. The thing is, you can get a good guitar. It's possible. It's like you don't need to spend hundreds of money on parts and stuff to make an amazing guitar. You just need to assemble it right. That's how I can put it. You see, the Buckycasters, they're not expensive when I sell them. They're not expensive when I get them. But it's like just because I know how to bend things and make it all fit. It's like the difference when you see kit guitars. It's always running 100 miles away from kit guitars. It totally depends on who it was that built it. It's like you get ones that look fantastic, and you just, you see, why is that kit guitar 100 quid? I'm pretty sure the kit was 200 quid. Plus, it's got 300 pounds worth of pickups in it, and he's wanting 100 for it. And it's like you go and looks amazing. You just try and play it, and it's just absolutely horrendous. They spent so much time painting it and making it look fantastic, and then they spent no time making sure the neck was in the right position. Sure. Ridiculous. I've actually got a double neck just now, which I got off my pal David, who's must be busy tonight. He's normally in a bucky. I think he's got a new job. And he was trying to sell it to me, and I was like, especially when I think he started off at like 100 quid for a double neck, and I'm like, it must be awful. It's only 100 quid to it. And then eventually I swapped it for a bass, and it was like, even just before not plugging it in, and I just played it outside in the street, just like up your tring. What a difference! It's like whoever it was built it, did what I did, didn't spend that much time painting the body, so it was just kind of black, right, next. And they had spent the time putting the neck on in the right place, cutting the nut, making sure the frets were all good, putting the bridge in the right place, putting the pickups in the right place. All these things made such a difference, and things plays amazing. Not really sure what to do yet. I mean, you can't say no. I don't, Jeff, you're saying there about EMGs, don't do it. Plenty of power, but no soul. I think it purely comes down to, depends on what sort of sounds it is you're trying to use. I think if you're going to be plugging into like a Metallica rig or Slayer or something like that, a guitar like this doesn't do that. It just gets completely lost. Whereas if you plug like an EMG guitar into what I'm playing, kind of, is that distortion now? See, at that level of distortion, these pickups are smashing, because although at the time they weren't vintage voiced, and these days terms, these are vintage pickups. It's like rather than being the EMG things. I think if you're right into the mad down tuning and all that, if you use pickups like these, once you get the gain up to a certain point, they just turn into mush and you can't hear anything. That's when someone mentioned there, it's like the note definition. Totally. Look at it, if you go in the other direction with normal pickups like this. I bought a guitar with mini humbuckers in it, a Yamaha, and it's in the other direction. So if you've got a clean amp and you play clean, it's quite clean and quite good, but as soon as you put any distortion on, it levels out on the guitar. So it's like, even with like a mild distortion, this isn't a particularly strong distortion, quite strong, but you can still hear it's a guitar. Whereas on mini humbuckers, at that level of distortion, you're into maximum saturation, which works really well at that level. But I mean, if you stick like that mini humbuckers into like a Mesa Boogie with, what do you call it, a dual rectifier, it's doing nothing. There's no point in having it there. Yeah, I don't blame you for missing up pissing on an LPG. I thought that looked fantastic. It's one of those guitars that wasn't that expensive when they were new, and then within a couple of years, once they stopped making it, the price went up. Same as like those Gibson. I've been trying to get another SG. I quite like a P90 SG. And those tribute ones, I remember seeing them in Guitar when they were, I think it was maybe 2013 or 2014 I was in, and they were selling off all the old 2013 ones, and they were $399 brand new for, I think it was a 50s tribute, even though they didn't make SGs in the 50s. SG, I don't know, craply painted, shed, brown, P90s, 24 frets actually. And I could have worked on it, but the thing is, at £400, it's still the most expensive guitar I've ever bought. It was nothing compared to my red one, but it could have been made to be, I think. But now, so I was thinking, oh, they're £400 new. I'm sure if I had a wee look just now, I'd be able to find them for sort of, 300, 400 quid? No, they're 900 quid. Like, ridiculous. Schecter, Tempest, Hellraiser. I know a guy that lives up the road. He's got a Schecter, Tempest, Hellraiser with active EMGs. Yeah. Name's Cameron. Yeah. I didn't know you could chorus-pop them. I think you're into the metal. You go to downloads and watch the bands that I've never heard of. For that, amazing. Totally. I'm at one point when I was, I don't know, 16, 17, 18 or something like that, I decided that all the music that came out between 67 and 73 was just amazing. So that was like kind of like my guitars from 1980 to 87, music from sort of 67, 68 to sort of 72, 73 just covers up. Or did I think I maybe extended that to 75, so it took in Sabotage by Black Sabbath. That era is just so much, and it's all amazing. When I started playing a 60 Strat and a brand new one with the same price, I know. I mean, it must really hurt going back that. You're obviously a bit older than me when that happening, but even just going back and remembering seeing, I don't know, Westones. I mean, you could go back 20 years. What kind of guitars would I buy? As you go back 20 years, you're into the sort of stage of I was able to buy guitars. Even coming down to my 8-string bass, maybe not. It wasn't 20 years ago. What would that be? That would be, I don't know, maybe 2004, 2005, something like that. I bought that, and I bought it in Guitar, the main shop in Glasgow, for 250 quid. And this is Yamaha built, 1980, through neck, brass inlays, ebony fingerboard, maple tiger maple tiger top, not a photo, solid ash back, pure ridiculous guitar. I think there was probably lots. If you were looking at the trade-in sections in guitar shops, you could maybe find ones like that were just ridiculous. I don't know if I don't know anything about the active things. The 81s are the ones that are. Is that the Zakk Wylde ones? I know the 81 is 81 and 85 is the classic set. Same as like if you're buying Seymour Duncan pickups. It's like, oh, you put the JB and the Jazz and the JB are the two that all the forums will tell you is amazing. So I mean, I don't know. I'd imagine the 57, 66 must be different. Again, I think it depends on what it is you're trying to do. It might make a huge difference if you're playing lots of gigs and having problems with noise and stuff like that. But I don't play lots of gigs. I've played any gigs forever, but I mean, and I'm playing in the room just now. This is the way I play guitar. So I don't really have noise issues or anything like that. Here we go, Kim, right. You're only allowed to pick 5 players from 70 to 90 that stand out. Oh. 5 players? Oh, God, it's not even guitar players. You're talking about players from sort of 70 to 90. Oh, jeez. Tony Iommi, John Fogerty. He's technically 60s. Who else would I put in my just players? Who do I think is pure amazing? I don't know. John Entwistle on the bass. He's amazing. There's no point in putting the 1990 thing on there because I wouldn't be anything past that. That would be my super favourite. Anyway, Gary Moore's really good. trying to think of people that really I could kind of almost listen to anything of. I've not got to 5 yet, have I? So I'd Keith Moon, I suppose, really. Keith Moon, Bill Ward, Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, Gary Moore, Richie Blackmore. Yeah, I'll leave it at that just now. It's quite a difficult one. If it just been guitar players, it would maybe there'd be Blackmore, Iommi, John Fogerty. What other guitar players do I pure love? I was kind of tempted to say Gary Moore, because I really do love his ridiculous playing. I don't like when he does the blues stuff, but when he's doing his Corridors of Power and Victims of the Future, da-na-na-na-na, all that sort of stuff's brilliant. Dave Hill, obviously, is pure amazing. Dave Superjob, yeah, maybe he's one of the best guitarists ever. So you write them, I'll sell them. I do love Slade, are fantastic. Frampton, yeah, I actually saw Frampton. It was a very expensive concert. It was at the ABC, and basically I was here. Frampton's stomp box thing with the control for the voice box was I could put my pint on it, sort of thing, and he was giving it the pure wah 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 ba 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 ba. He was great. Gary Moore was pretty much. It's just Gary Moore was a weird one because when I was growing up, I was aware of Parisian Walkways. That's fine. Yep, I didn't realize. And then at the time, whenever he was playing a gig, it was always a Back to the Blues album or a 12-bar Fantastic album. Whereas I wasn't really aware of the fact that there was an era, sort of early 80s, where it was just pure, absolutely ridiculous, really show-off, stupid, wearing like a shell suit, jumpsuit thing, dancing about, one humbucker, giving it amazing. Not translated well into the modern era, because when I was growing up, it was obviously being cool was really important. So like, yeah, that's when you had your Oasis and your Blur Nut, where I was like, it was more important being cool than it was actually. I'm not going to get into an Oasis discussion, but Britpop, it was more important being cool than it was being good. And I think it was kind of, it was just silly having guitar solos. You weren't really allowed to do that, especially silly ones. Like, you obviously had your Slash and stuff like that, but they were kind of, oh no, it's much more cool, laid back. You know, I like the Rolling Stones solos. You know, it's kind of, it wasn't a case of I want to go. It's just silly. Yeah, and you can like Oasis if you want. But last week I was goaded into moaning about it for ages, and then Billy's gone straight for Alex Lifeson, where I was goaded into on the defensive side for Rush, because someone said they were pure awful, and it's like, well, if everyone likes it, it's crap, basically. You can't, because everyone can't like it. You can like Oasis if you want. Not everyone has to have taste. And they did. If they brought you into playing the guitar, then it was cool. It got you into playing the guitar. Lots of people, I'm sure, played the guitar because of that. Hey, Bob, can you make a guitar out of a tree? It's one of the things I really want to do. I would love to. I'd love to, but I think there's an awful lot of drying things involved. But I mean, if you can make it out of a kitchen worktop, you can make it out of a tree. Don't know. I'd like to. I thought you said, could I, for you, sort of thing. I would love to. Basically, one day I will make it out of a tree. There's something wrong with the whole drying process, though. It's not a case of, so I just find a broken down tree, chainsaw it up, make it into slabs, make a guitar out of it. I don't think that works. It's just a bit, you know. Don't look back, you wanker. I heard you're gay. Yeah. This is it. No, did well. When you say did well, he made a lot of money. Yeah, I'll give it that. Yep, indeed, and Hendrix. Where'd that come from? I like Oasis and Hendrix. Well, you can like Hendrix as well. I bet you don't like baby metal. Here's a challenge for you. I put this challenge out a couple of weeks ago. I don't think there's anybody I don't think it's physically possible to like baby metal, who are my favourite band from the last since Black Sabbath Sabotage in 1975. Their 3 albums are the best 3 albums that have ever been made since then. I don't think it's possible to like that and Oasis. Prove me wrong. I want to see someone if it's possible. I just don't think it can be done. Battle of the Bands, incoming followed by Tonewood debate. Oh, Tonewood, yeah. Don't know. Solid maple, these guitars, or the Spectrums were. I think this might be solid maple. Everything apart from the fingerboard, which is rosewood. Eric Clapton and Mark Knopfler. I have never been a massive Clapton fan. It's the slow blues thing. I'm not a huge, massive slow blues fan. I obviously like Cream and Blind Faith and his more rocking tunes, but can't be bothered with blues. And then I went to see him at the Hydro at SECC, and he was fucking rubbish, is really the words I would use. It was appalling. He only played for 40 minutes or something like that, and he played only crap songs, only slow ones. He wasn't happy. Things weren't going well. And then he tried to play, he went off and then came back on. They were trying to play Cocaine, and he kind of went, you know, and he went, I don't know. He came back out, they went, bah! And then he just stormed off. And then 15 minutes later, the rest of the band came back without him and played one song, and that was the end of the gig. Like, right, so I don't really know what was going on, but it wasn't good. I'm not a Clapton fan because of it. Also, not much of a Clapton fan because I read his book, which was, he was basically, Eric Clapton fan. I read his book, heard all about the recordings. He basically did a lot of the recordings just to get drugs. And you're like, So it's like, what was most important to Clapton from any time between about 1970 and 1990? And it was like, drugs. He didn't really give a shit about the music. So he'd be like, yes, we're good, drugs, parties, got married, went into the studio to do our best album ever. And then the following week we did, and it just like, but the whole album, never mentioned any of the music at all, which put me off a bit. Spoke about this in Baby Metal or Shat. I think you'll find it's because you don't understand them. They're my favourite band for ages. It's so unexpected. It's not. It doesn't. I don't know. Everyone my age knows that because it used to be in the Vauxhall advert. Apparently, Eric Clapton get £5 million every time it was played or something. So that's how everyone my age knows Layla. Clapton's the best cover. It's good taste. Which is kind of bizarre, I really like J.J. Cale, who Clapton basically gave a career to, because J.J. Cale had done, I think it was 2 or 3 albums in the late 60s or something like that, and then they never did anything. He gave up being a musician, and he was like a painter and decorator, and then one day he just got like a letter through the post, and it was like a check for $250,000 or something. And it was like, because Clapton had covered Cocaine or After Midnight, both of them, and it was just like, so he quit his job and started recording albums again. So J.J. Cale kind of recorded from, I don't know, he did 2 or 3 albums since 68, 69, 70 or something like that, and then he was a painter and decorator until Eric Clapton covered Cocaine and that, and then he got money. He was straight back in those now J.J. Cale albums. I really like J.J. Cale though. He's great. Yeah, Baby Metal Guitar. Unfortunately, Billy, that Baby Metal guitarist died. Mickey, whose name was, he fell off an observation tower at New Year's Eve because he was mad into astronomy. So, I did see him live though. Surprised no one mentioned Dave Gilmour. Well, I was not a fan of Dave Gilmour until I saw Pompeii. I always thought it was kind of pointless, but Pompeii, it's like, yeah, amazing. Right, so any more questions? I think I'm going to give up. I'm noticing the sweat's pouring out me. I've been on for the hour and a half that I said I was going to do. Wilco Johnson. Wilco Johnson, is he my who's we go for who's the best guitarist I've met? I do like Wilco Johnson. He's hilarious. He can really only play one riff though. It's like I can't remember how you play the one Wilco Johnson song I can play because they're all the same when you can play one. Oh, Santana, yeah. Santana, I knew him from Woodstock. Not when I was there, when I saw the film when I was about 16. But still his best song. Oh. I don't really know who Albert Collins is. I know that's disgusting, but it's like Layla One Finger. Okay, maybe a little bit different. Pineapple and pizza needs to be. Anchovies and pizza, no. I thought that was quite a funny idea. One time I got a bite of a pizza that had anchovies on it, and it had like a wee bit of anchovy on it, like the size of a match head, and I might as well have just licked a gallon of squid. It was so ridiculously strong, couldn't cope with it. So, but pineapple on a pizza, 100% of the time, Rob. Definitely. Righty, so cheers for joining in. Had a ball again. Didn't really talk about the things I was going to. I need to keep an eye out for what would you do to this? Like, what does it doesn't, to be honest, it doesn't need anything. Everything on it's fine. I'm just sitting here looking at it going, why? I don't know what to do with it. But if you're looking for a guitar to fix up, belter, tune of my choice. I'll play one of my own songs because I got demonetized in the last video for playing Poison, so I didn't get any. I didn't get my 40 pence or whatever it is. Was it 4 pence? I normally get for these live streams from YouTube because they notice Poison. So I've kind of got to play original material. Pulled the tuner off the board. Obviously a fool. Try a different drum beat. Sounds like a different drum beat. So I was going to try a different key here. So. Now I can't remember which key I put it in. And that's why you continue playing when you're drinking. Just coming up with something I don't even know. What the hell is that? And I was just a little boy. You couldn't tell me. You kept it on long. You don't dream. Well, I wasn't the guitarist when I was playing with Jessie Ray. I was playing the bass, but that was kind of similar to the Thistle, which I should put in there. Look up Jessie Ray the Thistle for an amazing. We always called it the Thistle with a U in it, for an amazing song. All right, Hawkwind. Possibly, it's kind of got there a wee bit. Oh, that's such acoustic. Can't switch to acoustic. There's Hawkwind in the cut. Well, there could be some Hawkwind in it. Yep. It wasn't. By Nirvana, but it could have been. Yeah. It's like metal, not organic limbs. Blacktooth. Metal, not organic limbs. Do a D minor loop. I was like, I'm quite drunk, so it's like not really working well. That was a terrible drum track. Let's see if I can find one that's a bit less mad. That was me, even knowing the chords for don't say much quiet that if it's a Legion, baby. Not enough raping of the JJKO. I do actually have his guitar, or one very similar to it. Here, before I go, which I should have plugged in, but I didn't. I wasn't sure anyone was going to mention JJKO, but JJKO used one of these. A Casio, not as dusty as this one. His is the one that's got a built-in synthesizer and a Floyd Rose, but basically this exact guitar, apart from the Floyd Rose and a built-in crappy synth. This still has all the MIDI stuff, just not the built-in crappy synth. Oh, rock on. Love you all. Thanks very much. I'll see you during the week, and night. You know who you are. Brilliant. Thank you. Love you all. Oops, probably shouldn't have done that kiss thing. Oh.